Do you dream about your next trip? You're in the right place. On the Time to Talk Travel podcast, we come to you weekly to share places to go and what to do when you get there. Let's dive into this week's adventure.
Welcome back to another episode of Time to Talk Travel. This week, we're going to chat about trips with mom, gifts for mom, travel with mom, everything mom, because of course, you should celebrate mom all year round, but Mother's Day is coming up soon. So we have our reporter on the scene today. We got Ciaran joining us from the car on the go because it's an important topic. What do you want to lead off with? I'm going to let you kick it off.
I have to say that mothers are queens and they should always be pampered and taken care of. If you're on a trip with your mom, you should give her the best seat. No. I really love traveling with my kids and I've loved traveling with my mom and I love this topic, but I'm not sure what I want to lead with.
I get it. I put you on the spot because you were in a unique setting. Des, have you traveled with your kids or with your mom? I know you go visit your mom a lot, and that's a trip for you. What do you want to get into this?
I've done both, and I feel like there are some important things to keep in mind. Not everyone gets along with their mother for days and days at a time. So, my tips, and I adore my mom, don't get me wrong, but she has Alzheimer's. And so, with her, I have to be high alert all the time. I literally have put an AirTag on her phone that she wears around her neck so that I can know where she is if I happen to walk away to get a glass of wine. But before that, I remember a trip I took with her and my two sisters. And we discovered we can put up with each other for about 3 days. More than that, it's not fun anymore, and you wish you hadn't gone. So I think knowing your relationship well enough to know how long you want to spend one-on-one is good. I will say it is the ultimate gift. As a mother, the best thing my kids can give me is time with them. And even better if we can get away. I love travel, so they know that's my jam. Experiences with them are, I just did a whole story on mothers, so I saw this whole statistic on it. I think 1/4 of the flowers sold all year long are sold on Mother's Day. Like Valentine's is first, Christmas, if you can believe it. So I thought that was interesting. Jewelry is the number one gift beyond flowers and a card. And then experiences are creeping up right behind them. And I got to say, that's my love language is take me away, even if it's just a day trip with them. And I would say very often it's my daughter I want to spend the time with, but I also really enjoy time with my son and being able to do things one on. If you've got several kids, tell them, you know what, I'm fine seeing all you for brunch today, but I want a day with each of you or a weekend where we go different places. Even if you organize it, just saying, just please put me on your calendar for this day, this weekend, so that we can go reconnect or make new memories. Even if they're teenagers, I will tell you, my first press trip ever was with my teenage son, who at the time really didn't have two words to say to me ever. But I found him again on this trip to Mexico. He saw me in a different light. Oh, mom's kind of cool. Where I wasn't cool because I was always the heavy. By all means. And we can get into where to go and whatever. But I do think knowing the relationship and figuring out how long you can actually put up with each other before it becomes something you regret doing is important.
I'm going to say the same thing as you, Des, that when you travel with your kids and you're away from home, you leave your roles and your assumptions behind. Like you get to be a person instead of a sandwich maker. It is such a great bonding experience to be somewhere unfamiliar with your kids and for them to see you as a person who is maybe struggling in a situation to read a train schedule and figuring things out as they go. It just helps them see you in a new light, and it's so amazing for bonding. I did a 6-week Europe trip with my daughters when they were 16 and 19. We had Euro passes and we bopped from place to place. For my one daughter, she really hated it. My other daughter really loved it. And we had that whole, they weren't getting along and I wasn't necessarily getting along with both of them at any given time. But I don't think any of us regret the trip at this point.
I think I'm in that weird in between place right now, right? Because my kids are younger, most of them. And so the onus of planning the travel is always going to be on me. And my mother has just stopped working. Anytime we've done trips, it's been the grandkids. So it's not a lot of solo. It's going to be my mom, my dad, my sister, my niece, and like all of my kids, and my husband if he's not on duty. And so it's all of us. But my son, who's 20, he's just come into this time where he is asking to do things together, like starting to get to that point where he's, hey, let's go into Boston for the day together. You want to go do that? And so I think I'm like coming over the precipice of that. But I did take one trip with my mom and sister, and it was this random spur of the moment thing because it wasn't something we really normally did. We usually do day trips. We go do something, we have lunch. That was what we could all handle at that point in our life. But I had an account that was supposed to open in North Carolina, and it was an install over a weekend. And this was when I was pregnant with my daughter, who's about to be 14 this summer. It was a bougie hotel, and they're like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry you have to do this over a weekend. Why don't you bring someone with you? I have some United points or whatever. And I brought my mom and my sister with me. It was just random North Carolina trip. I'm pregnant. It's hotter than they expected it to be. I like remember cutting off like a one piece that I couldn't fit into anymore. Like I cut it above the elastic waistband so I could roll up my shirt. The elevator went out, like the power went out. So the elevator didn't work. And we were on the executive lounge floor again, pregnant. Like it was just a comical trip and we had a good time. We went a bunch of places. I don't even remember much about the trip. We ate some good food. We went to some museums. I remember walking around and seeing historical sites. But like the elevator going out and you couldn't flush the toilets and stuff. And it was, yeah, maybe that's why I don't do, maybe I'm just still a little bit traumatized from that one, but we all still chuckle about it occasionally.
That's the key. It's really the mindset and setting expectations before you leave the door and saying, hey, listen,
Mm,
this is a cool trip I want to do. I don't want to be the person running the alarm clocks. I want this weekend as not mom and
yeah.
saying, I need someone else to step up into this role if that's what you want. Now, if you're a control freak and that would make you crazy, by all means, keep controlling everything. Set the expectations, figure out what's going to make you happy. And it's important. I will tell you, I remember one trip to Colorado with all 4 kids. We had gotten off a plane to the house we were staying in, and it was World War III with the kids. The older ones picked
Mhm.
on the younger one. She's in tears, she's sobbing, which triggers me. And I am with all 4 of them. And this was not an inexpensive trip. And I remember saying, I regret doing this. This is probably the last trip because they were all getting older. One had already gone off to college. And I just said, I don't see us doing this ever again. So figure it out, get it together. Because right now, all you're making, I'm just so disappointed all the way around,
Mm,
angry, whatever. But, and again, I didn't really set it at the before we left, and I probably should have. And a lot of the stress was knowing we're probably not going to do a big trip like that again. Everybody
mhm.
goes off and does their own thing at this point. The expectations, knowing what you want to get out of it, that's super important. And again, rolling with it when things go sideways. Some things are not going to work out. With my daughter, I remember our last trip, I lost her passport. I didn't even know. Coming out of security, I'm stopping to get a water bottle. It's one of those crack of dawn flights that I like to do because I think it's less likely we're going to get bumped. This was leaving Barcelona. And she walked onto the gate with the backpacks while I stopped at the vending machine to buy a water bottle because couldn't bring water through. And while I'm standing there, here comes the customs agent looking at my passport, looking at me, Desiree? And she said, you dropped this. Somebody brought it back to customs. And I had just talked to her and told her how we were going to New York and wrapping up our trip. And so I was like, oh, did they turn in 2? Because I had both mom's the responsible one. So I was like, oh gosh, this must be gone. It ended up, hers was safely in the backpack. Mine was not. But she saw a different side of me. Oh, thought you were so responsible, mom, Miss Dependable. I was like, things happen. And on the flip side, we had a trip years before where we rented a scooter to get around the island for the day. We took the ferry over, rented a scooter. She was like, you know how to drive one of these? And I said, kid, this was me in college. I had a scooter. She thought I was the coolest thing ever on that one. So you really can be totally different people and let them see. I really do hope that you give yourself permission to just stop being the parent for a minute and just be who makes you happy if you're in a safe place to do it.
I think it's really important. One thing as moms, oftentimes when we plan a vacation, we sacrifice ourselves because we're so used to it. We're like, well, that's not what I want to do, but the kids will be happy if we do X. And that's not where I really want to eat, but everybody will be happy. And at the end of the day, you end up resentful and the kids aren't happy because they're just taking things for granted. I don't know. It's important to plan yourself into vacations as a mom, that it's your vacation too. And it's okay to say, this is where I'm comfortable staying. This is where I'm comfortable eating. And you know what, kids, we're not home. We're not just going to eat pizza and chicken nuggets. And I'm not going to design the whole vacation around you entirely. Let's try something new. And I think a lot of moms are afraid of that because things can go south, especially with younger kids. It's harder to do that. But as your kids get older, and your relationship changes, you're not required to sacrifice and not be yourself around them. And it is far more bonding if you can be who you are and they'll respect you more.
And I think that I'm deep into the mom stuff right now with the big spread of kids. I gave myself permission last year to not feel FOMO, like not feel like I was missing out if I didn't go to something. Because I think before that, the idea of sending them somewhere, I had done it over the years, but I always felt bad that I couldn't be there and they were like having fun with my husband or whatever. I so appreciate my time alone now that last year for Mother's Day, it was also right near my daughter's birthday. I booked the weekend and I sent them to Great Wolf Lodge in Massachusetts and I stayed home by myself and it was glorious. I sent all of them. Even the then 19-year-old went to be like the second adult and they went on water slides and dealt with obnoxiously loud decibel rating noise things and I'm water park. It is not my scene at all. Everybody else likes it and I'm like, "You know what? This is a present to them and me."
I was gonna say that was another thing in that survey of moms and what they want. Like a third
Mm.
of moms really
Yeah.
wanted permission to check out of the mom routine for the day.
Mhm.
So many dads, when it's Father's Day, go on golfing day or
Mhm.
whatever. And it's 90% of the time, I feel like it's
Yep.
away from the family. It's, I'm getting my
Yep.
day. Well, they're away from the family in general more than mom. But if moms want to take the weekend away, especially Mother's Day, they get a golden guilt trip. And I'm glad you did that for yourself. And I guess we're giving everybody else guilt
Perfect.
free.
It
Yeah.
was perfect. And I did a ton of stuff around the house. It's not even like I laid around and ate bonbons and took a bath or whatever. I didn't even care about that. I just, in my ADHD little mind, when I'm trying to get all these projects done around the house and I'm doing things, and then someone interrupts me halfway through to ask me where something is or where I put something or do I know anything about this and what's this in my room, or it completely throws me and I just wanted to be able to wander around in my own little cloud and do whatever I wanted. And my husband made me a snack basket. I had mentioned to him at one point, I said, when I go away on a trip, I get everything ready. I'm always thinking about everybody else. I get everything ready. I make sure that everyone is ready for while I'm gone. There's all the food that you guys like are in the fridge. I go grocery shopping. I make you guys something to eat for dinner a lot of times. I make sure everything is lined up so it is easy on you. I said, nobody does that for me. I said, first of all, I don't stay home by myself a lot, but like, why isn't anyone making me a snack basket of all my favorite things and then leaving me home alone? And that's what I got that year for Mother's Day. And again, it really, I don't feel bad about it. It was the right choice because a lot of times moms feel like they have to make an excuse, like they're going to go on a girlfriend getaway or they have to have a reason to go somewhere instead of just being able to go somewhere.
I remember when my kids were little, I had four, and I was driving carpools and exhausted with an infant. The only thing I wanted for Mother's Day was literally to check into the nearest hotel. It didn't even have to be the fancy hotel, just as long as it was clean and there was a comfortable bed and there were blackout shades. And all I wanted was to just go there and sleep and watch TV and read a book for 24 hours. That was like the ideal Mother's Day gift for me that year. And you know what? That's okay.
And a lot of mothers, like you said, don't want to necessarily have a whole bunch going on Mother's Day. With me, my oldest, he lived with his dad for a lot of his life. And I didn't have him on Mother's Day because of how the school year ran. I had him on Father's Day. And so Mother's Day was always very complicated for me because whether he called or not was once he was old enough to remember it himself, fine, but I'm probably not going to get a call otherwise. And so it always made me uncomfortable. So just to have the weekend to myself, to just do whatever the crap I wanted without any drama was made me very happy.
A lot of Mother's Days aren't these ideal. I was mom. I had
Mm.
stepchildren. I didn't call them stepchildren. They were my children
Yeah.
too, that I raised from the time they were 3 and 4. But they were always by the court ordered calendar with their mom on Mother's Day.
Mm.
And even though I was 50-50, the
Yeah.
caregiver, they weren't with me for Mother's Day. So we did Mother's
Yeah.
Day. I would always say, can we do it the weekend before or the weekend after so that all the kids. It rarely worked out because, again, I wasn't orchestrating
Yep.
it. Mother's Days are sad for a lot of people, which
It's
is all the more
complicated.
reason to do a getaway. All the more reason to grab your mom if you can, if she's around. If she's not, then again, go in honor of her. My mom loves travel.
Yeah.
She again still around, but has Alzheimer's and can't travel very
Mhm.
well. I just think do what makes you happy, and
Mhm.
whether that's hiking a mountain, going to a spa retreat, schedule something. It doesn't have to be on physical Mother's Day. It can be whenever you need to do it to make it work in your schedule. And we can recommend there are big cities to go to. There are all kinds of great places, but
Mhm.
I think the key is making sure that you are getting your bucket filled,
Mhm.
your soul
And I
happy.
and I think that there are so many people that have complicated relationships with their moms or their kids or whatever it is. My best friend lost her mom last year, and I know Mother's Day will be hard for her this year. And she has kids, and I know that she'll pour the day into them, and that'll be great. But if you have a friend who lost their mother, has a complicated relationship, won't be around their kids, and you won't be either, like maybe that's a good time to get together with them so that they don't have to spend that weekend alone. A lot of times it's just hard being around everyone else.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a fun new bonding, like you watch a bunch of really crappy movies and cry and eat chocolate and drink wine and have ice cream. That sounds great
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Again, we're about travel. So for me, it's ask them, would you
Yeah.
like to get out of the house? Would you like to go somewhere
Yep.
overnight for the weekend? Again, as we age, I don't expect to see my son on Mother's. I
Yeah.
won't even see my daughter, to be honest. That is just now hitting me that I'm not going to
Yeah.
see any of my kids for Mother's Day this year. So by all means, you know what? I am going to need to go away. I am going to need to get out of town and probably not to see them. I'll get myself to the water somewhere. And that's okay because, again, as we age, maybe I should be going to see my mom. Yeah, I have got to look at the calendar now because, again, I got to take my own medicine. Hadn't even planned that far. How crazy am I? Sharon, do you have plans for Mother's Day this year?
It's okay to celebrate ourselves. You know what? If you're a mom, you don't have to wait for somebody else to plan your Mother's Day. You can decide how you want to spend it and celebrate yourself however you want. I actually do not have any plans for Mother's Day this year. I try not to make it too big of a deal because my family is not really good with the gifts and the holidays, and I don't like to set them up for failure. Honestly, if there's something that I want, I should probably plan it myself, but I'm happy to just go out to breakfast and not cook for the day and basically do whatever I want. I'll probably go thrift shopping. I'll probably sleep in. I'll read a book. I'll do sunset on the beach and have some wine and cheese and crackers and call it a day and be okay with it.
I 100% agree with you on the if you want it to be good and you don't want to be disappointed. Yes, plan it for
Mhm.
yourself. There's nothing wrong with saying, "Okay, kids, you know what? Money's tight this year. I've done this before. We're going to play tennis. I just want the whole family to
Mhm.
go to the tennis court. It's free. Everybody's got their racket. You know what I mean? Something like that. Or I do want one of you to make me breakfast. I do want, and I'm not you don't need to go spend $300 in a fancy restaurant. No, not at all. Let's grill out. Dad's in charge of
Mhm.
that part or whatever. But if you wait around for them to plan it, odds are you're going to be disappointed, or at least that's been my experience. And it's no fun crying on Mother's Day. So, by all means, plan the trip, plan the day, whatever it is. But again, it goes back to set the expectations
Mhm.
and be realistic with whatever it is that your heart wants. If you don't tell people, how do they know? So, I like the way
That's a
you
good
think.
point. I think with some of the kids, like, being able to have their own money and most of them not having their own money, I think I might just make a challenge, like, "Here is $10 for each of you. Go find me the funniest thing you can find in the thrift store." Because
Yes.
the 7-year-old can go with my husband and the other 3 can go together and have their own little adventure. I think that still
Yeah,
gets them out of the house a little bit.
yeah. We are all thrift store fans. I have so much fun in there. It's such a treasure hunt to me, so I love that. I love that idea too. And again, if you do have the time, the money, and people available, your children or your parents, the trips can be the popular ones really are like a spa day or a spa
Yeah.
getaway or a wellness one or a hiking one. It's more ask her or you,
Mhm.
depending on who it's for. Ask if you're taking your mother. Find out, is there somewhere you've always wanted to go that you haven't been yet? Because again,
Yep.
your mom probably did exactly what you did and made everybody else happy. And maybe there's a concert she really wants to go see that's not in her town and you can
Mhm.
to me it's about making memories. I mean,
And if you are planning to take your mother out to eat and you are listening to this and you are not the mother and you are planning to take your mother out to eat, today is the day to call and make the reservations. Because trust me, these things go far in advance and you may have to go through a couple options even at this point. I know I mentioned this on our eco sustainable episode, but Pickety Place is an herbal luncheon place in New Hampshire. It's a major special occasion place for us, but like rustic, cute, and my mom and my sister and I have gone there for Mother's Day or for my mom's birthday multiple years. And I think I need to talk to my sister and see what we're doing.
I'm glad we're
So,
doing this episode now because we're going to help people
yep.
plan. Get it on the calendar and figure out what's going to make you happy. And again, to me, again, setting the expectations, making it clear what role they need to play and what role
And when
you
in
want to play.
doubt, like, yeah, mothers just want to know they're being thought of. That is the biggest thing, is that we're always thinking about other people and how to make their lives easier. So just anything, like if you loved traveling with your mom and you can't anymore, maybe it's a picture of a view you guys loved or something from that place. If you can't go somewhere or you don't see mom on the day or whatever, something that I bought this piece of art, it reminded me of you and here's why. Like a nice card, a reason why you chose the item. It doesn't have to be something big. They just want to know you thought of them and why.
On the other hand, if anyone does want to buy me a Mother's Day gift, and my kids are listening to this, I could use some new luggage, and a cup holder for my suitcase would be really appreciated. Maybe a new charger since they've stolen all of my chargers, and anything related to travel, like a neck pillow. I mean, I those are all appropriate and excellent Mother's Day gifts.
Yeah.
Write a note. My
Mhm.
favorite gifts from my kids are handwritten letters about whatever their favorite memories are or what they love most about me or whatever it is. Make it nice.
I love a drawing or a handwritten card so much more than a store-bought card. I'm totally a fan of something that they create.
100%.
Okay. I'm going to think we covered all of our emotional trauma. My dogs are getting a little wound up right now because
It's our cue to
hey,
close.
it is our cue to close. This Mother's Day, let's all give each other love and support and not emotional trauma. Until next time, happy travels.
Happy travels.
This has been another episode of Time to Talk Travel, brought to you by #travels.com. You can keep in touch with us between episodes by checking out our site, joining our newsletter, or connecting with us on social. We've always got the information you need in our episode notes. Until next time, happy travels, and thanks for being a part of our trip.